Welcome to another episode of Bassin with Captain Lou. Guys, good morning. I am out here fishing again, and I want to start off with an apology. And the reason for it is because on my previous video, I covered a lot of things and I failed to cover the tackle that I use. And guess where all my questions were directed towards? They were directed towards the type of tackle that I was using and how I rigged the soft plastics in that video. So today's short video is going to be about my rigging and the type of tackle that I use for the soft plastics that I regularly fish out here in the Everglades. This first combo is no stranger to anybody. If you are new to my channel, I have covered this before, but I'm going to cover it again for all the new people and for my younger audience as well. The type of rod and reel that I use for the swim bait, which is what I'm going to be covering first, is the Dobbins 735 Champion on a Shimano SLX reel. Right now, I'm using 40-pound Power Pro braid. Now, moving to the tackle part, the type of hooks and what do I use? I use a regular swim bait hook. To be honest, I haven't looked up to see which brand of swim hook this is. If I'm not mistaken, I think it may be in the Mustad family, but I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. But nonetheless, it's a weighted swim bait hook. My weights, for example, I don't fish heavy. I go with an 1/8 as my heaviest. If I need to, based on wind, I'll go to a 4th. But other than that, I usually like the 1/8. I don't like the 16th. I like to have the bait on a certain depth when I fish it, and the 16th, it comes up a little bit too high. So for that, I'll just use it weightless and burn it. But I don't burn my swim baits. I usually swim them under the surface. So the 1/8 weight is the ideal weight for me. Now, before I go into how I rig, there's one last little tip. If you guys follow me over on Ultimate Bass, over on the Fishing Lures forum, I went ahead and posted a money-saving tips for swim baits, and I'm going to cover it with you guys here in this video. Most swim bait hooks, from what I've seen, come with a medium, centering pin or twist lock. And basically what that is, it's a coiled spring that you go ahead and screw your bait on, which fastens it, and then you go ahead and hook and rig your bait. So what I do is I change the centering pin or the twist lock to a large size. And let me show you guys what that looks like. It's a large, meaning what happens is the coils are bigger. This allows this coil to bite into the soft plastic more, and what I mean by that is it catches more meat of the soft plastic's head, and it allows you to be able to use the bait a little bit more than usual, because with the medium-sized ones, they have a tendency to strip right off, and you tend to lose a lot of swim baits when a nice bass hits. Versus this way, your swim bait can handle a little bit more abuse because it's caught more inside that twist lock, or the large twist lock rather. So I'm going to show you guys is how I rig a fresh swim bait. This is the Capt Lures swim minnow. For you, those of you who know me and who have fished with me, know that I throw this type of swim bait almost exclusively. I like it. They're excellent swim baits in my opinion. But anyways, nonetheless, I'm going to show you guys how I rig it. There's two ways to rig this. One way is you could bite the tip of the nose off, and it's going to give you a flat nose. I have one around here to show you guys, and I'll do that. Here it is. You bite the tip of the nose to give you this flat nose right here. And by doing that, it allows you to use the centering pin or these twist locks a lot easier. The other option, and it's what I do, is I don't bite the tip off. I go ahead and just tie straight on. So what happens is I take the centering pin. This happens to have a centering pin. I go ahead and push it right in the middle of the nose of the swim bait. I make sure that the first coil, there's a first pointy coil that you guys will see there, that first coil is basically touching the tip of the nose of the swim bait. And right when it does that, I just go ahead and start turning it clockwise, and then you'll see the swim bait start moving up the coils of the twist lock. Now, what I do is I don't go all the way up. I go up pretty high, but I allow it to still be able to free move, just like so. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure it's on there centered. Because if it's off to the either side and you then go ahead and hook it in the belly, it's gonna start swimming funny, even though the hook is centered in the stomach, but the nose is off center. So once everything is lined up just right, I go ahead and place the hook into the cavity of the swim bait. Now, there's a couple of ways of doing this. When I'm fishing heavy vegetation, what I like doing is I like putting the hook into the body of the swim bait, like so, and then I push the center of the back, exposing, let me show you guys. I push the center of the back, exposing the hook point, which it gives it a channel to go to, and then I release it and then hide the hook point back into the cavity of the swim bait. So by doing that, what happens is now that channel that the hook will now travel through when a fish comes and bites, but right now this is completely weedless right here. Look how I run my finger without getting it poked. And that's the weedless presentation. Many anglers like the text pose, and that's fine. I use that if I need to in open water applications or around very sparse cover. And basically what happens, or what that means, is that you take out the hook point and you skin hook it. So what does that mean? So that means is you take the hook and then you expose it on the other side of the back, like so, and then you bring it right up to the edge of the hook, and then you just simply raise the swim bait, like so, and then rest the swim bait back onto the point of the hook, and that way you have no hook point exposed. And what happens there is that when a bass comes, as soon as it grabs, the hook point's exposed, and you can go ahead and hook the fish. The reason why I don't use this style when I'm fishing in thick vegetation is because this is only held on by a little bit of plastic. So when I cast inside stuff, it knocks that hook point loose and I end up getting hung up anyways. So I go ahead and just dig it right inside the cavity of the swim bait, like so. Like I mentioned, I press down, open a cavity with the hook point, and I'm good to go. That's how I rig my swim baits. Like I said, if anybody has additional questions, please feel free and comment below. Okay, the next soft plastic I'm gonna be talking about and how I rig is the thumper. What I do as far as my tackle, I use a 5/0 super line, and that's very important. This happens to be a Gamakatsu. It's an extra wide gap offset hook. And the reason why it's super line is because this is a very thick gauge hook. As you guys could see, it's a thick gauge hook. This will not bend easily compared to a 5/0 regular wide or extra wide gap hook, just the standard one. You're gonna run into a problem. Open water shouldn't be a problem, but if you start fishing inside of cover, as you horse the bass out of cover, you're gonna open the hook. As weights are concerned, I like to add a very small amount of weight. I like to add a 1/16 to my worms. In this case, it happens to be a lead 1/16. And then I go ahead and use a bobber stopper to hold down that weight. It's a very simple setup, like so, like you guys can see here. It's very, very simple. And the way I rig this is just like if I was gonna rig this a Texas style. So what happens is I rig it the length of the hook point here and right before the hook bends. Now, before I rig it, what I like doing is I like having that my tail is pointing to the left, or the tail is pointing upwards. I don't do it where the tail is pointing down. That's very important, okay? Once I do that, I go ahead and stick the hook point down right towards the bend, and I just push it. Now, the thing about these worms is these worms are very tough material. Like I said, they're similar to elastic, so they're tough and a little spongy, so you really gotta work that hook inside the body of this worm. And then like I just did there, I slide it all the way up, okay? And then similar to the swim bait, what I like doing, and this is me, is I like to bury this hook into the body of the worm and then open a little channel in the back. So I go like that, which is nice and straight, and then I push right here, exposing the hook point. So I go like that, and I expose the hook point on the hook there, and it gives it a channel for it to travel when I need to set the hook. But again, so what happens here is it's a weedless presentation. And I rig it this way because of cover. If I'm fishing thick vegetation or medium vegetation, I rig it this way. Again, you could do the Texpose like people do, which is like I showed you guys on the swim bait. You take the hook point and you just skin hook it in the back. I don't like that. It still gets hung up for me. I like using it this way, and because of the material of this worm, it doesn't get torn up. And again, that's the way I rig my speed worms. Any questions on this one, comment below, or look me up over at ultimatebass.com. As far as the outfits for the speed worm, what I was using, and this is just me, again, this is another Champion 735. This just happens to be a full grip versus the split grip. As you guys can see, I am very partial to Dobbins. I've been fishing Dobbins for a very long time and enjoy those rods, but you guys use the rods that suit you, okay? And in this case, this happens to be a medium heavy, or like I like to call them, it's a medium heavy type of deal. It's more on the heavy side than medium. It's a 7 foot 3 rod. I've covered this rod before on previous videos. As far as the reel's concerned, it's another Shimano. Again, I enjoy Shimano reels. You guys use whatever reel you want or you like, okay? But it has to be a 7-speed or higher. That's the caveat and that's the deal. If you want to be successful in fishing speed worms or soft plastics fast on top of the water, the minimum speed is 7-speed. You use whatever brand you want, you use whatever brand of rod you need, but you need at least a medium heavy to heavy rod to fish it effectively. As far as the type of line is concerned, I am using a 40-pound braid. In this case, it happens to be yellow. I mix it up. Some of my reels have different colors. Some have red, some have yellow, some have the traditional green. I like yellow. I like yellow for topwater applications, especially for frogging, because it's a strike indicator. I'm able to read where the fish is going because of how bright this line is. I can tell where their head's at, and it helps direct my hook set. But again, that's just me. You guys use whichever color you guys like. But you're not gonna miss many fish in topwater applications when you're fishing the thick stuff if you're using yellow. As far as handles go, the SLX comes standard with a 90 millimeter, if I'm not mistaken. This is also a 90 millimeter handle. This happens to be a Hogtech with the knobs, with the big knobs. So I like to equip myself for the battle that I'm gonna be facing when I fish topwater out here in the Everglades. And you guys should too. If you go outgunned, you guys are going to be disappointed when a nice bass slams onto your swim bait and you don't have the proper gear to fight that fish out of cover. So do yourself a favor, at least a 7 foot heavy to medium heavy rod, at least 40 pounds or more braid, big stout hooks, okay? And a 7-speed reel. As soon as that bass hits, lay into them and go to town and have a great time with it. And that's the best advice I can give you guys. Again, if you have any additional questions, go ahead and answer below, or go to ultimatebass.com and look me up, and we can have a blast in conversations and discussions. Thank you guys for watching. Like the video, share the video, become part of the community, and I'll see you guys again soon. Take care of yourself.